Welcome to the Product Design Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Coelen, founder of UX Cabin, where we create world-class web and mobile apps. I'm excited to bring you a behind-the-scenes look into the lives of some of the most interesting and talented people in product design. We'll get strategic advice on how they got to where they are today and things they wish they would have known earlier in their career. All right, today we have Christine Maggi with us. She is a product designer from San Francisco. She's well known as Design Gal. If you watched any of her YouTube educational videos that help newbie designers navigate their way through design. Christine, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I actually have always wanted to be on a podcast. So you're making my dreams come true right now. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad I could help notch an item off your bucket list. But
Totally.
I was just thinking about how we even got connected. And I remember we got connected on Twitter. Twitter has been just so awesome for me. I know, it's one of those things where it can be really awful, toxic place, or it can be really awesome if you use it well.
Yeah.
And I remember I had posted a silly design video and you commented on it. And I was, checking out some of your stuff and I was like, oh, she likes my video. And I just was fanboying over you.
Oh my goodness. You really don't need to do that. I thought it was hilarious though. I really appreciated the humor and creativity that went into those short videos you posted, because I think in the realm of like design people talking on Twitter, there's only a couple that I can think of that are being humorous about it and lighthearted and kind of poking fun at our industry.
Very serious.
And I love that you just brought some light and I loved all of those just hilarious quips, and they were so true. It's like when something's so funny and so terrible and you relate to it, I think that's such a sweet spot of comedy. So well done.
I would love to get back to those at some point, but yeah, those were definitely fun. That video kind of connected us, and here we are today. So I know you have a ton of really good experience and insight and wisdom, and we can go ahead and dive into all of that. So
perfect.
Why don't you just go ahead and tell us kind of how you got started in UX, into the design community, and your journey to that?
Yeah, I'll give a short version. I was lucky to have discovered design as really a teenager on accident. I was making graphics for online message boards for teeny bop groups and singers.
Sure.
And was just messing around and loving it and having so much fun putting these graphics together. And that led to me getting a domain. I think I was 15 years old. I, had to explain to my mother what a domain was so she could get it for me as a gift. But I was just messing around and loving designing in the digital space. And that was before the web is what it is today. It was the Wild West, and there really were no rules, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it for the love of it. I didn't know design was a career for a while. Actually, I would say right in the nick of time, I learned that you could do design for a living. Right at the end of high school, thankfully, before I had to go figure out what I was doing for college. But yeah, I ended up going to college for graphic design, but I, had that kind of digital background from high school. So that was my first foray into design. Loved college. It was an excellent experience. Do not regret going to college, as challenging as it can be and expensive and time consuming. For me, it worked really well. And I basically got out of college bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and started entering the world of design agencies. So really small companies, local clients. And I love that because I was able to try so many different things. I wasn't just doing print or web. I was also art directing photo shoots and coming up with ad copy. And I loved all of that, just to be able to explore and kind of figure out what I was good at, what I really liked. And as far as UX though, I hadn't heard of user experience design probably a good three years into my career. It was not on my radar.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. And that just goes to show you like how quickly things change and how your career will probably be something you haven't heard of in 10 years. But I really came to it on accident. So after a few small agencies, I was looking for a change, and I got hired as a graphic and web designer at a tech consultancy that primarily worked on software projects. So I really was blessed to kind of get my foot in the door that way, doing what I knew, but being thrown into an environment where I really had to learn on my feet, learn by doing. I was being given software projects from, early on that I had no idea what I was doing. Tech was
Yeah.
all new to me. I was extremely confused for months and months. But over time, you start to kind of put things together and understand interaction patterns, and you're learning the lingo and how things work. And I found that it was a really good fit for my skill set as a graphic designer. Even though I have a good visual eye, I'm a good visual designer as far as illustration or
Sure.
creating things from scratch. Not my strongest suit, but I
Sure.
do have sort of like a logical systems oriented brain as well. And so user experience was a great blend of my love of visual design along with that logic and problem solving. And I think for me, what I really loved most about it was just the fact that your work is sort of going to live on in someone's in a way that functions for someone to do something. It's not something just to look at, but something that's actually useful. And this was a brand new concept for me, but I just fell in love with it, and I ended up deciding after I was ready to move across the country, really just to focus on UX and try to like go all in
Sure.
and learn more. And I ended up going in-house at a couple of places. And again, a lot of learning on the job, a lot of being surrounded by smart people and, absorbing everything I could. And yeah, so today I'm a senior product designer, and that is a title I never thought I'd have. But here we are, and it's a really good fit for me. And I'm really happy that, our industry is so broad that I think everyone can kind of find a special place that kind of fits what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is just kind of like one of the things I love so much about whether it's design or development is that there are so many resources that you can go and find and learn how to do things.
Totally.
I know one thing I struggled with in school was like, okay, I have this math problem, and if it doesn't line up to the three examples that they have in the book, I'm screwed. So
Yeah,
I just felt like there was a superpower when I started working to be able to like look up the answer, like how do I do this or how do I build this, and I can go and figure it out. And I think that's probably more essential to someone being able to problem solve than being able to like just regurgitate. But
absolutely.
that totally like opened up my eyes of like, oh, I can actually do anything as long as I know how to research it.
Yeah, I literally
uh,
did that yesterday. I was setting up some design styles in Figma, and the new variants feature just rolled out, and I hadn't done it before, and I wanted to try it. And so I watched the tutorials. And I think you're right. It's like as long as you are okay asking questions and doing a little research, digging in, you really can learn anything due to the abundance of resources we have now, which is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's even from, like my end of more so running an agency now, it's like I didn't know how to run payroll, but there's so many things that you'll never know, but it's like you can learn it. There's always a
Yeah.
way to learn it. And I think anyone who wants to be something that they're not, whether you're in a different field or you want to get into product design or graphic design or development, it's not like you have to have this like innate nature that says you were destined for this. It's like you can find a way, you can find your path. But that kind of leads us into our next topic, which you've probably impacted, thousands of people with your videos on design education and kind of helping people find their learning path. For those listening who might be unfamiliar, do you want to kind of give a broad overview of your your design videos and curriculum that you've been working on for the last few years?
Sure. Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel under the name Design Gal, and I think I started it in 2017. And this was really born out of, hashtag millennial quarter life crisis that I had, that I think a lot of people go through, where I just felt like, all right, I did my education, I'm employed, thankfully, but I want to do something more. I want to give back. I want to feel like I'm actually making an impact on the world. And I really was very introspective at this time and was
Sure.
thinking, what are the things that I just light me up? Like when I do it, I just feel so fulfilled and excited. And what are the things that I know a lot about, like that I could talk about endlessly and feel like I have a lot to share? And after a lot of soul searching, I kind of landed on I really love helping, students or folks who are just getting into their design careers navigate this whole world. I think as I was early in my career, trying different types of working environments, working different industries, it just really blew my mind how different every place was and how I was learning about myself in every single job I had, whether it was something that worked well for me or something that didn't, team dynamics and differences with the projects that you work on. And a lot of that I had never thought of when I was in school, and I didn't know. I think starting my career, especially the first place I worked at, I kind of assumed like, oh, this is just how it is. Like every single place is going to be like that. And I found that that was just not the case. And
Right.
I think through trial and error, I discovered that there's a lot of opportunity for different types of people and what works well for them. And I really had so much to share around helping others find their right path, I guess.
Yeah.
And so thinking of, okay, how can I share this? Do I do a blog? Do I do a podcast? Do I do YouTube? I kind of had to figure out like, where can I have a lot of impact? What's something that I, would be interested to learn? I think YouTube had always been something I loved, just watching vloggers back in the early 2000s or 2010s ish when it came out. I'd always been fascinated with the world of vloggers, and I always thought it was so cool that people were just opening little windows into their life. So I was like, I don't know anything about video production. I don't know how to edit.
You
I
figured it
don't
out.
even, yeah, I don't know what equipment I need. But again, I did a lot of research and cobbled some equipment together. I think I used my iPhone 5 in the beginning on top of a stack of books on top of my kitchen counter with only a skylight that was like half cloudy, half sunny, depending on the minute. Like it started out pretty humble there. But it was fun to just try, something new and learn something different. And I had so many ideas just like of the things I wanted to share. And luckily that I had enough content ideas to last a few years. And so, yeah, it was a really good experience in that I learned something new. I was able to share what I wanted to share. And a lot of people seem to find them very insightful, which is, my end goal at the end of the day was to help people and to help them kind of navigate their way through this world of being a designer.
Absolutely. I know that whenever, friends of mine or people who reach out to me and they're kind of like, I want to, like, how do you be a UX designer? I had taken a lot of time in years past to kind of write out maybe some like a learning path or whatever. And recently, um, I've been, sending them some of your kind of like broad educational videos of like, this is what kind of the landscape of things is. This is how it's different than graphic design. This is some ways that you can, you know, paths that you can take.
Yep.
And, just looking at your channel and, seeing how much it's grown, I think everyone's probably started, a YouTube that kind of peters out maybe after like 3 videos, but like you posted like a ton of really really good quality videos, and you ended up getting over 12,000 subscribers. And I think people look at that and they're like, oh, she probably just had like her first video was like super popular and she just got a bunch of all of her subscribers there or whatever. But how did that grow over time? Was it like, you know did you not get a lot of traction at first and you just had to like be disciplined and you're like, I want to share this? Or did you kind of hit a home run off the bat?
Yeah. It definitely started slow, very slow. I actually didn't tell anybody I knew that I was doing it for a year.
Really?
I was scared. It was out of fear of what are people going to think. I mean, people on the internet, I don't know them personally, whatever, but people, my friends, my family, I wasn't sure I was ready to kind of share that with anyone for a year.
Okay.
And so all that to say, there was no self-promotion. It was purely
Sure.
upload, write a little description, let YouTube do the algorithm, see what happens. For the first year, I think I slowly made up to about 1,000,
Okay.
which, and I was doing somewhat consistent videos, I think, that first year, maybe one or two a month, but it was slow because I was new. I wasn't posting all the time. I wasn't promoting anything.
Right.
Again, because I was scared. I was really just putting my feet out there, like, okay, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of funny because my very first video with the stacked books and the iPhone 5 is to date my most popular video. So, but
That's awesome.
it didn't blow up in the beginning, right? Like over time, that's the one I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, because it's popular, it ranks higher, and like that's still one that does really well, which is hilarious because I'm extremely awkward on camera. The lighting's terrible. The editing, I think it was in iMovie. So it was just, it's kind of funny to think about, and that's still the most popular one. After I kind of got over that initial, like, okay, this is a thing I'm doing, like it's gaining a little traction, I'm ready to kind of open up this part of my life to people and be okay with learning to be okay with self-promotion. I think the next year was really a lot of work, to
Okay.
put out. I think I was doing a video a week on top of a full-time job,
Wow.
which that was a lot. I don't necessarily think I'll ever be able to do that again because I burnt out really badly. For a while there, I was doing one a week, and that really propelled the growth that I saw probably in 2018, 2019. That's the thing about YouTube. It likes when you're consistent because
Sure.
people can expect that. They come back. I get it. It's just a lot. It's a lot
lot.
of the
It is a
creator to
lot.
do, unless it's your full-time job or something, which, some people do that and they have more balance. But for me, it was really hard to keep that momentum up.
Yeah. Did you ever get like discouraged either by like trolls online or by like just not having the reach or the amount of views that you were wanting or hoping for?
Yeah. I feel like I'm pretty lucky in that I've only gotten a handful of negative or trolly comments. Probably because I'm not, huge YouTuber or by any stretch of the imagination. But as far as reach, I mean, I think I still struggle with self promotion a bit, and I definitely didn't do a lot of that ever. So for me, it's never really been about I got to get the views. I got to get the subscribers.
Okay.
I have a goal of this number. Honestly, my goal was I'm here if people need me. I want to help them. They'll learn something cool. Like I never had aspirations to be a big YouTuber, and I'm not.
Sure. Sure.
But I mean, sure, if I self-promoted more, I could probably reach more people, help more people. I get that, but I don't know, it's always felt weird to me. It's hard for me to do that.
I totally get where you're coming from on that. I think the cool thing is like so many of your videos are honestly just like timeless design advice. Like some people put out there, it's just like it's very relevant for a very like specific point in time. And if you ever came back to it, it might not make sense. There's so many videos that you've put out that it's like this is going to be relevant for a really long time and it's going to get picked up by people, people are going to find it in searches, people are going to refer them to it, and it's just like this nice library of really good design education that people can always go back to.
Yeah, thanks. And that was not intentional, but I think you're right. Like I never thought of it that way. But I decided early on, like I'm not the person to teach you how to design. There are plenty of resources out there,
Right.
and I don't have a desire to learn, tools to share that properly. It was just more of like I've had these very wildly different experiences and I learned something from each of them, and that is something that I want to share. I want to tell people about. And so yeah, I think you're right. That's probably why people are still watching old videos of mine because honestly, the content, if I were to redo it, probably wouldn't change that much. It
Right.
still very much holds up because it's not, the tool of the moment or how to do this latest
Yep.
design trend. There are wonderful examples of how to do that out there. But since, I'm not someone to constantly keep up with that and be the first one to tell you about it, I really wanted to be more of like a guide that
Yeah,
you could come back to without teaching you step by step how to do something.
totally. I know when there's kind of like that age old, you know, philosophy of like if you produce something or if you make a blog post or if you make a video or something, people kind of look to you as like client type people kind of look to you as the expert in that area.
Hmm.
Did you end up getting more like freelance or job opportunities because of the videos that you put out?
No.
No.
um, well, uh, sponsorship opportunities,
Okay.
or we want you to review our product, or those types of things. Absolutely, I still get
Okay.
them. Most of them, if out 95% of them, I say no. But as far as jobs, actual design work, not really. And
Okay.
I don't think I expected that, but since most of my audience are fellow designers, they're not coming to me to like do actual design work. I think I've had a couple opportunities for consulting, or like, okay, you seem to know what you're talking about. We're creating a service where we need people like you to also consult our people.
Sure.
So those types of things, I think there is a little crossover, but actual design work also could be because I really don't show a lot of my own work in my videos. So there's no reason for someone to be like, yes, that's amazing. Do that for me.
I
Um,
would just imagine like you going to a job interview and they're like, "Why do you think you're qualified?" And then you just like pull open your laptop and you're like, "Look at all these."
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was on the job hunt this past winter. I had to decide whether or not to sort of share that part of what I do, like in my
Okay.
resume or on my portfolio and things. And I think depending on the audience, it could matter very little, or it could show like, okay, this is someone who's current on the industry or is well connected, or is doing something outside of her day job that shows that this is really something she's passionate about. So at certain times I would share and certain times I
Sure.
wouldn't. So that was kind of an interesting, like, oh, this could either this could potentially help me, or it could potentially be seen as a distraction. So it was kind of
Sure.
an interesting thought process.
Okay. Yeah, so we've talked a lot about kind of the things that you've done outside your typical day, maybe we can get into a little bit of like, what does your typical day look like? What does a product designer do from, on a normal basis?
Yeah. I think one cool thing about this job is that every day is a little bit different. My literal everyday right now looks different than it did a month ago because I just switched jobs. I'm
Okay.
actually about to start week 3 of my new job.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. But as like an average, looking back as a UX or product designer, typically in the morning, my brain's not there yet. So I spend a little time going through emails. I subscribe to a few newsletters, design related. I love Sidebar. I love UX Collective.
Mm-hmm.
I love Rob Hope's newsletter. Just to get a little like, okay, what's happening in the world of design today?
Sure.
Or there's like, new resources or new thought pieces that I think are interesting. Usually scroll through Twitter and LinkedIn. And then after my coffee's done and my brain has arrived, then I'll start diving into usually have like a morning stand-up with my team or, some kind of check-in depending on, if you meet with the larger product team or just a design team like at my last job, where you kind of talk about what's going on for the day, what are we doing, any blockers, or do we need to meet about something later on to check in on your progress, things like that. And then depending on what's on my plate, I could be going into Figma, doing, working on refinements to a design. I could be preparing for a presentation to a stakeholder, which would entail, getting my design files out of the messy, unorganized space and more into something presentable and digestible. It could be writing up a summary of a user test that I listened to. It could be preparing for some research. It could be going through analytics or feedback on how the product is doing, what people are saying. Just a lot of different things. I think product design is so broad that you're usually doing a little bit of everything, which I like. I know there's more specialized role. Like if you're just a researcher, you're not going to be diving into Figma typically. If you're just a UI designer, you're not going to be doing the research or the analytics, things like that. But as someone who's a proud generalist who likes doing a little bit of everything, there's definitely a lot of variety in my days. But it's usually a combination of meetings, emails or Slack, design work, and then, making summary documents or presentations.
Like you said, you're a generalist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you enjoy creating components and designs and getting really nitty gritty into like the design system? Or do you like more of the research, the analytical user interview side of things? Or is it really just kind of like enough to make it interesting of each?
Yeah. With my visual design background and, that being my first foray into design, I think that will always be my number one.
Yep.
That is definitely my favorite part. I don't mind digging into nitty gritty details. Working on design systems, as tedious as they are really fun for me. Don't mind doing that at all. The research and the analytics, I think it depends on how qualitative or quantitative it is. If it's qualitative, I find that stuff really interesting. I like listening for patterns and themes amongst, feedback that we're getting on, a new feature, for example. The more analytical stuff is not my number one, but I'll do enough of it to get what I need or rely on someone who has more of that like spreadsheet brain than I do to kind of get what I need out of it to inform the rest of my work. But I wouldn't say that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I'm similar. I get much more enjoyment when I'm like, okay, so I created this button, and if you drop it into here, it gets bigger and it can go full width. or you can toggle on this icon just with this little switch. And I'm just like, that's just what like makes me happy.
You're like, yes, I'm done.
A perfectly built component that can be used in every instance.
Yes. Love it.
Cool. So, I know when people kind of get into their career, they kind of look back and they see like this windy path of like all of the different steps that they took to get there.
Mhm.
Looking back, is there anything that you wish you would have been able to tell yourself, either right as you're going into college or right as you were starting your career, that you didn't know then that you wish you had?
Yeah. I would say, looking back specifically at college, I think I cared way too much about things that I wasn't interested in because I was going for like a good grade. We're not academics. We don't need to go to grad school. We don't need a 4.0. And for some reason, I was just like, nope, got to get the grades. I got to put 100% into all these classes that were not design related or not necessarily for my
Sure.
degree, my major, I mean. And so I think I would tell myself, like, chill out on the grades, enjoy this experience a little more, have a little more fun, but also, really lean into the connections that you're building amongst your fellow design students, because
Yeah.
your network is going to be with you for the rest of your career. And I think wherever you end up learning, if you learn alongside other people, you kind of have that shared experience to think back on and to really build great relationships from. So I would tell myself to just not miss that opportunity, and focus on things that don't necessarily matter in the long run. So I
That's
think that's
good.
what I'd tell myself.
That's really good. When I was, trying to get design jobs and everything, nobody asked me what my grades were.
I know.
I got a marketing degree and I started in, front end development, and I was just coming into the workforce when things were like starting to be considered of like, do we actually need a degree? Like, is that a requirement? Like,
Yeah,
certainly it can be helpful and open doors, but it was kind of like, and now I like when I interview people or I bring them on, there's like zero requirement for college. Like, great if you were able to go and if you enjoyed it, but product design and UX, we don't need to be, this gatekeeper type uh
totally.
doctorate type of sphere. Like, you can learn what you need to learn on the internet, and
Yep.
some people do better with that, some people do better learning in class, but uh no, I think that's really good advice. I myself probably was on the other end, didn't quite take school too as seriously as I should, but um I guess it all worked out.
It all worked out. Yeah. And I think you're
Cool.
right. Nowadays, because there's so many resources, even for free, college, and I think, Gen Z knows this. It's like, college? What do I need to go to college for? I have YouTube. Or like, no, and I think it makes it more accessible, to a
Yeah,
lot of folks that would never otherwise be able to get a college education or, learn
totally.
something that's going to take them forward in the career. So I'm all
There's
for teaching yourself. If you can do it, yeah, go for it.
there's like inverse incentives now, because it's like more information is becoming available and it's more democratized, so people have more access to it, and college is getting more expensive. So it's
Yeah,
like, um, something's going to change here in like the next decade. I don't know what it is, but um,
you're right.
these schools got to figure out something to keep their value of, I know there's always going to be like doctors and lawyers and fields that absolutely need those
Yeah,
type
we
of.
want you to go to med school if you're going to
Yes,
operate
please
on
go to
people.
med school.
Even back in uh, the late 2000s when I was in college, as someone who was interested in web design, my college didn't teach that. It was very print heavy. I think I had one web design class. Um, and even back then, like, it just wasn't keeping pace with technology. So
Right.
if you want to go into tech, if you want to go into product, colleges, because they're such large institutions, and a little bit slow and behind, you may not get, the most up-to-date knowledge on what you need to know. So in some
Right.
instances, it might be better to figure it out on the internet, right?
Right. I think kind of what you said about, like your network. I heard someone say like, if you go to Harvard or, an Ivy League school for business or whatever, education obviously is top notch, but you go there because of all the people you meet so that you
Mm,
can, get a really good job from your connections, right? It's like, uh, a business degree or whatever degree from Harvard versus another place, there's going to be a difference. But like the real reason you go there is to get that network and that relationship building there.
yeah.
So being kind of in the thick of product design and UX, um, and you've been at it for a little while now. Do you ever see yourself going into a different career or changing it, to a different type of field?
It's funny you ask that because I think a lot of people from the pandemic are really thinking critically about life and big questions like, what am I doing? How do I want to spend my time? Um, so yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, and I think knowing that the industry changes so quickly, on one hand, I kind of anticipate doing something I've never heard of, because it's just I don't know about it yet. But that doesn't mean I won't get there. Just like with product design, here I am, right?
Right.
I can see something like that happening. I I think I'll always love design. I think I'll always have that in my life in some capacity. Eventually, I think I might want to try consulting or trying to run my own business potentially. Just like you, I think we've talked about, what it's like to kind of run your own thing. And when I, was thinking a lot about how am I spending my time? What do I want to do? It's like you can either go somewhere 40 hours a week, put in your time, be done, be off the clock, do whatever you want, or you can kind of set your own schedule, set exactly how you want your day to look like. You may not get, all the benefits that a company
Right.
can offer you, but does that is that as valuable as, designing your life exactly how you want it? And I think that was something I really thought about. Ultimately, I decided to join the company I'm at now, and so far it's going really well. I'm really glad I made this decision, and I'm excited for where how I'm going to grow here. But
And what company are you at right now?
it's called Thistle. So Thistle is a healthy plant forward meal delivery service. Currently on the West Coast, hoping to be on the East Coast within the year.
Very cool.
But it's actually a great fit for me because I was looking for something really mission driven, where I feel like if I'm going to contribute 40 hours of my life every week, I want to feel like I'm really making a difference in a way that is personally important to me. So health, wellness, sustainability, giving back to communities, all of those things like I'm so passionate about. And yeah, Thistle has been a great just like Venn diagram of
That's
all of those
awesome.
things. Yeah, and it's a role where currently I'm the only product designer, so I have so much autonomy. I have just the door is wide open
Wow.
for potential there for design, and that's really exciting. And I was really lucky to find this place, but eventually, um, I don't know, in a decade, maybe I'm tired of working 40
Yeah.
hours a week. Maybe I want a little
Right.
break. Maybe I want a little bit more flexibility. Although now with working remotely and the team at Thistle is full time remote forever, as far as I know, a lot of that flexibility is kind of baked in. And
Yeah.
another cool thing that they do is called First Fridays, where every first Friday of the month we have off. So
Ooh, that's
literally
cool.
today is First Friday. It's the first Friday of the month. I have the day off. I'm talking to you. Like, it's
That's
great. So
awesome.
I think, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for flexibility or a little time off, like there's companies now that are starting to kind of be less, you have to be in your seat at 8 and you can't leave
Right.
till 5 and you can only take 2 weeks off a year. Like employees are tired of that. They're like not standing for it anymore, which I think is wonderful. And companies, the smart ones, are noticing that and being a lot more, flexible and trusting of who they hire. So yeah, so far this is like the best of both worlds for me.
That's awesome. I think it's always funny thinking about like, you know, flexibility and coming from either, agency world or corporate world, and there being like this, um, at least, a handful of years ago, kind of this undertone of like, if you're not in the office working, if I don't see you working, then I assume you're not working. And
Yeah.
like, you can only work from home if you have a really good reason, or, something like that. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, if you don't trust these people to work independently, like why would you hire them in the first place? Like, I'll hire you because I can keep an eye on you. But
It doesn't make
but
sense.
yeah,
It doesn't.
it's just kind
It's
of
just
that
an
old
old,
school.
exactly, old school way of thinking. And it made sense when your job was to go to a factory and like crank something out. Like the more time
Right.
you spend work like putting this thing together, the more products come out. But since our jobs are not like that anymore,
Yeah,
I
honestly,
could go
sometimes the
on. But
best thing
this
you can
whole,
do is to go watch TikTok for 15 minutes because your brain needs a break or something.
oh my gosh, TikTok, I'm sure like everyone else downloaded it March 2020 and it has been such a reprieve. I don't even want to know how many hours I've spent on TikTok, but
Oh my word, I
honestly,
know.
it makes me happy. It's a nice break. It makes me
Oh,
laugh. So
it's like one of my favorite social platforms now. It's
yeah,
just my algorithm just like knows me, knows what I need for a
scarily
little pick me
well,
up way too well.
way too well. Yeah.
Way too well. So you're at a really good spot right now in your current job. Um, looking back, I think there's always highs and lows. Whether it's either you're in a not your favorite industry or not your favorite type of um, company. What are some of like the highs and lows that you've experienced as a UXer, product designer, as you've gone through so many different companies and avenues and work styles?
Yeah. Um, I can think back to a couple instances. My first, real job out of college where say I had to present something to a client, being so nervous.
Right.
Uh, 20, I don't know how old I was, 23-year-old, barely out of school, not sure I know what I'm doing, not sure if my work's good enough, presenting something to a client and then having it go really well or having your boss say like,
Yeah.
you nailed that and feeling, oh my goodness, like I did it and it went well and like I can do this, just that feeling of
Yeah. Totally.
I I I know what I'm doing and feeling confident. Like those are always great moments. Even now, when I get nervous about something or I'm not sure how it's going to go, or I'm stretching myself in a certain way, or you know, addressing conflict in a new way that I've been learning about and working on, and it goes well. You're like, oh, that was like great. That even if nobody else saw it, like personally having a moment of growth and realizing and recognizing I did that,
Yeah.
that was good. And I had that in me the whole time.
Yeah.
I think those moments are always like, whoo, just you just
So
shake it off and
freeing.
you're like,
Yeah. Just
yeah,
like a
you
weight
feel
was lifted off your shoulders.
yeah. A lot of opportunities about where I've been able to speak at local meetups or conferences, be a panelist to young designers. That's not necessarily career, but those moments are always so fun for me just to feel like I I can help shape someone's career and like get them prepared in a way that maybe they hadn't heard in school. That's always really been fulfilling. Or joining, like literally I'm on a high right now with my new job, just feeling like, okay, I made this leap. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. I was nervous about some things, but I'm here and I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like,
Yeah.
and like sigh of relief a little bit and get actually excited. I think a lot of times, a lot of the lows I've had have been where I've been somewhere a while or maybe not even a while, and I'm feeling like my time here like is short. This isn't either the right fit for me, or I'm not growing like I want to, or
Yep.
the culture has just turned in such a toxic way that like I'm like it's so unhealthy for me to be here. I got to get out.
Yep.
Those times suck. It's hard, and work is such a big part of your life that when you are in an environment that drains you or causes you so much stress or anxiety, that it's
Just
taking
impacts
over
your
other
whole
parts
life.
of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's miserable, honestly. So those I would say have been like the hardest times. But looking back, it's like you always kind of know in your gut when something isn't right and something's got to change, and that can be a catalyst to the next thing. So I think
Yeah.
it just, life ebbs and flows, ups and downs. The lows lead you to the next high. Like when things are really bad, they can only get better, right? So, yeah, every one of the experiences I've had has kind of taught me something, whether, this works for me, this is awesome, I'm doing what I want to do, or I'm finding what I am like the sweet spot of I
Sure.
have skills and I enjoy it. But then also like, okay, this kind of environment doesn't work for me, and now I know that and I can take it
Yep.
forward and like not go somewhere like that next time, and I'll be much better off. And yeah, just a lot of those lessons has really just been interesting as someone going through their 20s, and now I'm in my early 30s. Just yeah, you don't know that stuff till you go through it. And I
Right.
think that's why a lot of the YouTube content came from. I'm like, listen, nobody told me this about an agency. Nobody told me this about a startup, but like, here's what it was like for me. And maybe that can help you
Right.
make a good decision for you.
Totally. So throughout your day, you kind of have to be creative, and you're doing all of these things that kind of force creativity on you, like a career side, or at least like a creative systems type of systematic approach. Do you have any creative outlets that you do for, outside of work that have turned into like hobbies, or kind of help just put your mind at ease, or anything like that?
Yeah. So I think especially 2020, when a lot of us were like, well, can't go out anymore. What am I going to do? Or needing a break from the screen, I was like, I gotta figure something out, because I'm on I'm on a computer all day, or I'm on my phone. Like, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm not going outside. I got to do something. So I ended up digging out my old box of acrylic paint from my freshman year
Really?
of college. Yeah, and these paints are like crusty and old, but inside there's still good paint in there. So yeah, I dug out my paints and I bought a couple new brushes, and I just started just messing around. And I think for me, there's been a lot of self reflection and growth on like letting go of uh, perfectionism or doing things out of duty, but more out of joy and what I really love, and just letting it be that, not
Yep.
making it into a thing, not like turning it into a side hustle that needs to make money, or a business like so much of the culture pressures us to do.
Yes.
So this was something where I was like, nope, it's just going to be for me. I'm going to just do my little doodles. I'm not trying to be an amazing artist, because like I said, like I make shapes and lines. Those
Yep.
are my paintings, right? And they're just very simple, but it is really relaxing when I do it. I'm having a little trouble just making that like a regular part of my routine. Um, but when I do it, when I'm like, nope, I'm going to paint tonight, I'm going to turn on my music, I'm going to just get out my brushes. It doesn't take long to set that up,
I
but for
know.
some reason, it's hard to just do it, right? But once you're there, you're like, oh, I can just paint for like an hour or two, and I get in the zone so easily. And yeah, it's been a really fun outlet for me.
That's really
Ultimately,
cool.
yeah, long term, if I'm consistent, I'm hopeful that I'll hone in on what I do, like a style that's uniquely mine, because I think everyone kind of has that. Again, balancing not making it into a thing, capital letters, but eventually, yeah, just like owning what comes out of me naturally. And um, one day, I would love to just like paint a big wall. Someday, we'll see.
Cool. Very
But
cool.
I'm not making that like a I have to be this amazing artist by
Right.
next year, because it's unrealistic, and that would take the joy out of it. So I'm just kind of taking it as it goes, and yeah, just seeing what happens, and it's been really fun. That, and I bought a pair of used rollerblades off of Facebook Marketplace, and I've been rollerblading sometimes.
Wow.
So you know how like the 90s are back right now? Well, my 90s hobby is back for me, and that is been so fun.
Rollerblading used to be so cool.
I know. It's like I had to get over it. I was like, you know what? I think roller skates are like kind of coming back, at
Yeah.
least on TikTok, but roller blades with the helmet and the knee pads, not so much. But I don't care. I love it. It just you just glide around. It's been a great way to just get outside without um I'm not here to like run 10 miles. I just want to blade, let's just
Yeah.
blade.
Just for the cruise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. It's funny you mentioned like trying to make it into a thing, because I feel like, I don't know if it's like our Western culture or what it is, but anytime I feel like I have a good idea or I do something that like I enjoy, I'm like, how can I make this into a business? How can I scale this? And it's just like I
Yeah.
need to like force myself to be like, it's okay just to enjoy things, just to enjoy them, and there not be
Yeah.
anything, you know,
Oh,
attached to it.
yeah. I know. I've been thinking a lot about that the last few years. And I think, yeah, just especially thinking about YouTube and how it turned into something like that for me and totally burnt me out. Just, yeah, it made me realize like, why do I do the things I do? And if it's something that's ultimately like sucking life out of me instead of giving me energy, it's like, is that really worth it if I've already done my goal of helping people and like sharing what I wanted to share? I can just leave it alone and like be okay not posting all the time anymore, right? But it's hard to
Totally.
get that through your head when the media and there's so much, I think less now, but definitely a few years ago, just like grind, 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 and
Yeah.
like quit your job and like be your own boss and do whatever and like make all the money and travel around the world. Like it's yeah, if you can do that, good for you. But I need a lot more balance and rest in my life than I think
Yes.
that that hustle culture can provide me.
Totally. Well, I think part of that is just self-awareness, right? Like I feel like as people, we become self-aware in like pockets of our life. We might be
Yeah.
really self-aware in certain areas and others like completely blind. And if all you're seeing on like your timeline and your friends is just like Gary V videos or whatever, or just like people hustling, you're gonna be like, this is normal. I need to be doing this. A lot of designers who really are good at what they do, like their hobby is also design, or it's like it's also working on their side product or whatever. And that's totally like my tendency. I kind of have to force myself to be like, I've been doing this for 8 hours today. It's time to go enjoy time with friends and family.
Yeah.
Don't always have to be cracking the whip on like the next big thing. It's okay. It's okay to chill and to rest and enjoy like a hard day's work and just be done with it.
Yes. Amen. That's good, Seth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. And we're going to link up all of your socials and your YouTube channel in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. This has been really fun. And again, bucket list item, be on a podcast.
Yes.
I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today on the Product Design Podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure and go follow our guests. Let them know they did a great job and you learned a lot. More to come in the following weeks as we bring on new guests. Please hit that subscribe button so that you will get these podcasts and learn a ton about the product design community. Excited to see you next time. Thanks.